Hello and welcome to today's historic best of 3 deck tech and gameplay video on Extort Foretold, which is basically a mashup of a couple of the Extort cards that the format has access to, meaning being Sorin of House Markov and Blind Obedience. This half of the list basically wants to add an additional, almost kicker-like effect to all of our cards, as you can see with the rules text of Extort, giving us and a way to go over the top with our game plan that doesn't necessarily apply the most board pressure. Extort triggers give us the ability to apply pressure and put a clock on the game, as well as, also gaining us life if we need to, and whatever value the card itself, besides the Extort, happens to give us. The other half of the list is Doom Foretold and the various sacrifice fodder for it. I'm going to let you read the Doom Foretold card as I loosely explain what it wants to do. Basically, after you play this card, on the beginning of each player's upkeep, they have to sacrifice a non-land, non-token thing. And if an opponent can't do that, you basically get a good chunk of benefit, which is basically the latter half of the card. To do that, you need things on your side of the board you don't mind sacrificing while you're also slowly chipping away at everything your opponent has on their board. To do that, we have cards like Oath of Kaya and Treacherous Blessing, and even like Ichor Wellspring, that after they've entered the battlefield and did whatever they happen to do, we don't mind sacrificing them to a Doom Foretold. And sometimes there are cards like a Treacherous Blessing, which you actively want to get rid of. Same thing with Ichor Wellspring, you actually want to get rid of it again, so you're more inclined to sort of sacrifice those things. But even if you sacrifice cards like an Oath of Kaya, that once you've played it, is largely kind of done its thing and you don't mind getting rid of it. Same with like Trial of Ambition. We also have a couple of newer cards in the Hopeless Nightmare and the Hopeful Vigil. Both of these are, again, enchantments that once we play them and they enter the battlefield, they've kind of already done what they need they've already done what we need them to do. So we don't mind sacrificing them after they've been sacrificed, or after they've already used up their value for us, either a dude or a discard. But what makes these even particularly great, you actually get a bonus when you do sacrifice them. In this case, scrying 2 for both of them. So that's also another one of those cards that fits into the things you want to actively get rid of category. We do have some general glue cards. Starfield Mystic is a way to ramp into a Doom Foretold on turn 3, and since you're going to be sacrificing a lot of enchantments, it can oftentimes grow to be a large, respectable threat in of itself that can close out games if not answered. Also have 4 copies of Bloodghast as a cheap, easy thing we don't mind throwing away, since we can get it back from our yard to our battlefield with landfall relatively easily. And with all the Extort cards, it's pretty easy to slowly whittle our opponent's life down to where you can even have the Bloodghast have haste with its second clause. And beyond that, there's honestly not that many more glue cards. The only thing you could argue falls in the glue card category are the land base. Run some Fell the Profane so we can have some interaction spells in our land base that we were already going to have. Iganjo, more interaction. The rest are just generally good lands. You can sort of tailor them to what your particular collection has access to. Like, for example, this is a slower deck that's looking to grind more value over the long term and just really wear your opponent down, so this is a perfect one of those lists where you can run a Temple of Silence, or like those Surveil lands, whatever they're called. This is one of those rare lists where you don't have to super adhere to the lands that I have, maybe except for the Fell the Profane. For an uncommon, this thing is an absolute killer. But yeah, just run whatever land base you happen to have, and you'll work out pretty well on average. Sideboard, pretty self-explanatory. Some White Orchid Phantoms for if you need to get rid of some problem lands. Usually against like a Gates list, this is pretty good. Or any other particularly scary land that I'm not thinking of right now. White Orchid Phantom is pretty good for that. Bogart Trawler, another one of those bits of utility that's also in our land base. Just graveyard hate. 3 copies of Tainted Remedy, since opposing life gain decks are very common and very popular in the format, and they're honestly a pretty good entry point if you are looking to get into the format. So any list that has access to some sort of life gain hate should be running it, and Tainted Remedy is one of the better versions of that. 2 copies of Path to Exile for creature removal. A single Necromentia for like hard combo decks, like your Sultai Ultimatums or something. Or if there's one real linchpin card that might not necessarily be a hard combo, Necromentia lets you get rid of that. 2 copies of Witch Enchanter. Again, in this case, it's Artifact and Enchantment hate that is also a land. Lovely. Pretty self-explanatory when you bring these in. 2 copies of Wrath of God, because sometimes you just need a sweeper, and there are decks that will go faster than you, and this deck is really a long game, grinding, kind of attrition-y based matchup, and you just need to sort of sacrifice the board, and honestly, you're not building that much of a board that you mind sacrificing anyway. And a single copy of Brilliant Restoration against opposing decks that want to go really, really long, like, say, a Rakdos sort of sacrificey mid-range thing that wants to go a long time. Any sort of traditional, like, blue-based control deck. This basically gives you, in theory, one last big swell to try and, like, get over the hump of dealing with those decks that can be, at times, better at the long game than you are. But that is the basics of the list. Don't forget to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions like, I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally nice and or constructive comments, go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. With all that out of the way, we'll go on now to game number 1. And game number 1, sorry about that. And of course, we're going to go first because we have a brain. Go ahead and throw this back. We can't really do anything with it, as well as it being a one-lander. Annoyingly, same thing here. And honestly, it's like fine. We don't love it, but it's fine. It's good enough that we might as well just take what we can get. Throw away the Hopeless Nightmare. It's not that useful. I guess a clearing. And like we talked about in the deck... Hell yeah. Like we talked about in the deck tech, this being a slower, more grindy, and more attrition-y based matchup, we do not mind running temples at all. Anything to sort of smooth out our draws and find things we need are good in a deck like this. We'll pay 2, Blind Obedience. They're annoyingly going to get a card out of this, but what are you going to do? Cool. Is it Boros Humans, I guess? Sadly, we're not going to be able to start getting extort triggers. But, you know, a removal spell, in this case a Trial of Ambition, is a removal spell, no matter how you cut it. I guess we'll see what he sacrifices. Esper Sentinel works. That is a perfectly legal option. I'm sorry? Okay, okay. What is this card? Getting your upkeep, or instep, sorry. If you control a creature with power greater than its base power, create a 1/1 cool, I guess? In that case, we'll do a Sorin of House Markov. Again, we're not getting any, are we not getting any lands. We're also not getting our extort triggers, but right now we're just trying not to die. I wonder if they, well, no. Yeah, some sort of like Boros Devotion Humans thing. Also has Convoke stuff. Okay, that stings a lot. That helps. In that case, we will go ahead and play the Oath of Kaya, getting rid of the Vanguard here. Just trying to stabilize and get rid of the biggest thing on the board. If we can get to the point where we can start chipping away at our opponent with a Doom Foretold, we might be able to pull this back. But there will be opposing decks that will just go faster than us. And you have to be able to accept the fact that you're probably not going to win game one. And you have to hope to draw your Wrath of Gods and your Path to Exiles. Or Path of Exiles, whatever the card name is. Which are cards... And there's soldiers too. This list is all over the place. It's fascinating. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sometimes you just get ran down. Oh, what is this? What is... fine. Okay. 2 Path to Exiles. Ooh. 2 Wrath of Gods. Anything that makes us hurt ourselves any more than we need to is not great. Bloodghast, can't block, so we'll go down a couple of those. And a Nightmare doesn't produce a body. Also, not only do we hope we find our silver bullet pieces and our sideboard pieces, we also need to draw lands. Sometimes you will just have, a weird variance game like that. Again, play first. It's important not to, change your game plan too much. You just have to understand that sometimes games like that are going to happen. We will go out of our way now since we have a good chunk of what we need. Granted, not sideboard pieces. But this is a good enough hand that we're just going to look for a land off of our temple. Come on, land on the top, baby. That'll do. Our opponent mulliganed down a fair bit. Go ahead and play Sorin of House Markov. Anything in the early stages to build a life buffer. And not for nothing, Sorin himself is a pretty respectable blocker. Okay, in that case, I think we're going to play a Fellmire untapped. We're going to Oath of Kaya down the Veteran. Yes, they're going to draw a card, and that stinks. But playing the Oath of Kaya and the Sorin attack trigger is going to give us enough life gain to transform him. And we will go out of our way. It might seem like gross overkill, yes, but we are going to downtick and get rid of the Esper Sentinel. We're in a really good space. We're in a controlling space on the board. Our opponent mulliganed down a lot. We largely have our engine online. Kind of can't ask for much more than that. What is this? What? Exile Veteran from your graveyard. 1/1 counter on each soldier. Cool. I don't know if there's enough soldiers to make this work, but sure. Credit given. They're kind of doing the thing. Go ahead and play the Iganjo. Gonna uptick and make a food. Suppose we'll do a Hopeful Vigil and an Extort trigger. We're going to probably keep, well, I think we will actually play the Hopeless Nightmare. It sucks not to get the Extort trigger, but they have so few cards in hand, and in Boros, they're not going to have the greatest access of ways to, fill their hand back up. So the quicker we can get them hell-bent, the better, kind of thing. Meaning, no cards in their hand. Removal spell. It's honestly not bad. Go ahead, play a swamp. And since we have the Doom Foretold, we'll go ahead and play it. And we now have the land base. Huh. I'm actually going to pay that. I don't want him to get the card. Right now, depriving him of resources is more important than, putting a clock on the game. Kind of like that. We were already very firmly in the driver's seat. I have no idea what this is. No real reason to change it up. Go ahead and press done. Not only because, whatever the hell that... I don't know if... Hang on, are you able... Yeah. The weird glitch at the top of the screen. had my preview disabled, so I couldn't even see if you can see it. But yeah, not only because of weird glitchy thing on my screen, but also, you know, our sideboarding strategy is sound. We don't super need to change it. Might as well keep it. Just like we're going to keep this hand. Good. Again, do a temple. We have all the lands we need now, so we can go ahead and look for some more interactive pieces. Granted, have to actually find those pieces, but one step at a time. Soren's pretty good. Yep, go ahead.
This isn't even the good side.
Gonna draw a lot of cards. See what happens. That is certainly an option. I feel a little better about that now. I guess we'll do an Iganjo. Play a Blind Obedience and paying for the Extort trigger. They sadly have a full grip of cards. Not a terribly large amount of things we can do about that. Just sort of, you know, hope to, like, find our pieces and what we need here. All that being said, still feel pretty good. If he attacks, we block with a Sentinel. Anything to gain life wherever we can. It's not going great. No, it's probably... Yeah, probably smarter to play the Spike. I can't pay for the Esper Sentinel anyway, so we might as well pay for Extort triggers. Just trying to put as many blockers between my face and their board as we can. Now, all of this being said, deck still performs very well and is kind of doing what the deck is meant to do. Kind of can't ask for much more than that, really. And yeah, if you can't, you know, if you can't find your sideboard cards, then things are going to be pretty upsetting regardless. I've seen... I don't... Like, it's a good card in this instance because it happens to really work. And it's not a bad card, I guess. I'm not totally on board. We need to draw exactly a sweeper next turn, or we're very dead. So what are we doing here? Why are we oopsie? Anywho, let's block the biggest thing on board. Hope we find a sweeper, and if we don't, game's over. Yeah. And we didn't drop. Yep. I mean, again, the deck is still good. The one win here does show how the deck is supposed to work, but I talked about it in the deck tech and earlier on in this very same game. I had fun. You know, sometimes you'll run into a list that's just faster than you are. And sometimes you draw your sweeper and sometimes you don't. It's not a whole lot to it. Anywho, with that out of the way, we'll go on now to game number 2. And game number 2 with our little Extort Doom Foretold list. And we'll go ahead and keep this. Because it has, you know, a good amount of lands and spells to play. You can't really ask for much more than that. Hi, sweet cat. Okay, thank you for not being in front of the screen. Is it like a death touch thing? Okay, it's just a weird else. That's fine. In that case, guess we'll do Soren first. Maybe begin to present some sort of blockers. Blech. They're running Blight Blade. I would assume that they're like a more budget build, so like, meh. Oh, they're okay. I mean, so they're running Golgari, and that's fine. I have my own version of this. I'll probably like do it. I almost certainly will do my own version of a Golgari Elves update thing. So I can't really give them too much slack. We can eat that. That's fine. We're going to start extorting a lot. Going over the top. Blind Obedience. Pay for the extort. Sadly can't attack. So it's going to be a little difficult to actually get the second half, or basically to get Sorin to flip. What is that art? It's kind of cool. Don't know how they got that art, but that's very cool. Although we do know now what we're probably going to grab. Just, you know, sweepers and interaction. What are you foretelling in green and black? Yeah, no blocker. I can't think of what they would foretell, but I guess we'll find out soon. Maybe that one black mass reanimation spell for a creature type, whatever that thing's called, is the only thing I can think of. Guess we'll do an Iganjo. Play a spiked, a barb spike. Go ahead and... Let's see. Yeah, we paid to the extort. We can now attack with the Markov here. That should give us the 3 life needed to flip him. I guess we just... Yeah, the Avenger. The Avenger is in fact the biggest target, so... Is the responsible, quote, thing to do. They might have like a Reclamation Sage if they were hovering over the Blind Obedience. I actually wouldn't be that surprised. Granted, having that in the main deck is a little odd, but not like unforeseeable odd. If they attack... if they attack with everything... I think we trade with the Visionary. Okay. 5 cards, mill elf, or you may put elf or grit. Cool. Alright. I do like green and, we'll say, X versions of elves, just because they're more interesting than like a mono green. Mono green might be like a very good and like reliable version of it, but if you couldn't tell by, you know, this very YouTube channel's existence, I do like to tinker with stuff. Oh, pardon the yawn. I do like to tinker with stuff. So I understand it. Yeah, actually, we can eat a 5 hit. Unless they have a combat trick? Okay, I was going to say that's a weird thing to have in a elves list, but they also have hardened scales, which is a little odd. But I understand. Certain budget considerations have to be made. That helps. Is there any way I can meter this out right? Okay, I should be able to do this. We'll play a clearing, play a Markov, pay for 1 extort, not both. Pay for 1, decline the other. Then we've gained 1 life, so we can down tick, getting rid of the Visionary. It is going to suck to have to ping ourselves twice from a clearing and not be able to extort it back, but if we don't do this, we're probably going to die. That's what. Okay, that's fine. Odd, but fine. But yeah, it's going to suck to ping ourselves down a little bit, but this is a necessary thing to happen so we don't die. What's the other chapters on this? Buff a board, whenever enough attacks, minus things. Cool. Totally irrelevant. And then we'll Trial of Ambition. Again, sadly can't extort. But this gets rid of their board. Granted, they have a Tyvar ticking away, which is great. But one problem at a time. That is a card. If nothing else, if we draw another land, we can always start cracking some of the clearings. And, like, potentially try and dig our way out of this. Is he going to uptick or just make another dude? Upticks, which is fine. It's not that fine. There's a chance we die. Yeah, it depends. Depends very much so on what we draw. That helps. Okay, hang on. Let's think about this. How do I do this? Well, we're gonna... Well, yeah, we're gonna uptick no matter what we do. So I guess we can crack the food, because this will gain me more life than if I extort twice. Yes, we're not applying the over-the-top pressure that extort brings, but right now we're just trying to... Oh, we still just die, right. He can sacrifice the... Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we just die. Yep. Okay, wait on. Let's see if our opponent sees it. If he sees it, he'll uptick his dude and make his blade bigger and kill me. We can hope that maybe he bricks it and doesn't see. Because if he does, then we have an opportunity. But he sees it. Well played. Man, I love... Tyvar's like a really, like... I love him as a character. I like, again, the elves that go in a different direction. I don't know if elves get any other support in any color but black, though. But I'd love to see if there are. Anywho, some Wrath of Gods are useful, and a couple Path to Exiles. Blessing can go. It's not the most useful. Bloodghast can't block, so we could probably lose a couple of them. Maybe like... like a single Mystic, that's fine. And now we just sit and hope that we can find our sideboard piece. About all you can hope for, if we're being honest. But if I do, you know, happen to lose to this list, it is one of those, believe I've talked about it before, where, you know... Because if you... Because I haven't been able to record these all in one bit, not to give away the sauce too much. But if I haven't talked about it in the previous game, several days ago of recording, I'll talk about it now. This is one of those cute lists. We'll go ahead and play a Godless Shrine. And play a Sorin. But this is one of those lists that, like, tries to win and grind out over the long term. It's not... It can deal with other aggressive decks. It's just not the greatest at it, if that makes sense. I guess we can lock the Wayne, play a Mystic. Go ahead and pay the Extort. I'm going to attack with the Sorin. If he blocks, we're happy to make the trade. Because we're just trying to get rid of opposing boards in any way we can. If we got to lose a Sorin to do it, yeah, what are you going to do? Elves, this is going to sound like the most no-shit statement on the planet, but oh well. Elves are very much a build-up of a deck. You can't just kind of vom out your hand. Or you can vom out your hand, but if you don't have a board, kind of doesn't mean much. That's not terribly what I want. Guess we can do another Sorin here. Maybe like a Blind Obedience. Sadly, we can't attack.
Good silverware.
I wonder if they have some sort of Crater Hoof or what's the Indra's Forerunners style card in that. Okay, that was not that was a single target reanimation, but there's a mass one that's like a mythic quality that also exists. In that case, just start extorting away. Go ahead and attack with the Sorin of House. Oh, no, not you. Attack with the Sorin. This will give us the 3 life we need to flip it, so we can actually get rid of the Eladamri with a down tick. Granted, he might just crack back and kill Soren next turn, but again, we're just looking to try and, you know, cut the grass, for lack of a better term. If we don't do it whenever we can, as often as we can, it'll just get away from us. Just is the way that it is. Although if he attacks with everything... Yeah, if he attacks everything into Soren, Soren just dies. But even then, we still start blocking. Again, just trying to, you know, to cut the grass. That's cool. Nothing. Okay. Can I just do it again? I have the life buffer, so we're going to start attacking his resources in hand now. We're not making a whole lot of exciting plays, but this is a good example of just slowly trying to whittle them down over a long enough period. They haven't found any lords or anything that makes their relatively small board scary, so we kind of don't mind doing this. What could you possibly be? Oh, he's thinking about what to discard, right. I was about to say, what could you possibly be, like, hovering so hard over? In that case, we'll just down tick again. Get rid of the Yellow Domry. Oh yeah, I'm an idiot. I only gain 2. Really, I'm that dumb. Yeah, I'm stupid. I forgot last turn I was able to attack with the Soren when it was still a creature. Okay, I'm an idiot. If I just threw it away, I threw it away. I feel really fucking stupid about that. But that's fine. I make terrible, terrible plays all the time. I haven't seen this card seen play. Turn elf, hand, untap creature. I mean, that's cool. But this is a reprint, actually. There's fuckery and shenanigans in that card somewhere. Like maybe they're gonna Eladamri out twice in this, or once in this turn, or twice, or something, and like summon a really big board or something scary. I haven't seen this thing do goofy shit, but even I can see goofy shit abound in this card. Oh, well that's lucky. I only have to play one game. What does this thing do again exactly? Top card, cast creatures, green, tap to untapped, reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, onto battlefield only during your turn. That's fine. Play a land. If I go to remove the Eladamri, no matter what I do, he just, like, bounces it back, but we have to make him use it. And it will slow down whatever goofy-ish he's trying to do. Who knows if it's going to matter. Granted. But again, even if nothing else, if, again, we're just stalling and trying to chip them out. Oh my god. Trying to stall and chip them out with extort triggers. Saying that, though, annoyingly, I don't think I should do either extort. I just need the vigil and bodies on board. Is he not going to bounce it? Yeah. Lose one of your tokens, save your big scary dude and your draw engine. Yeah. What is he do? Sure, that... Unless he already had... Well, hang on. Only has 5 mana, 6 at most. Enderay's Forerunner's like... I think like 7, 8 mana, right? Attack with a Vigilance. If eats a couple blockers, that's fine. I want to say Crater Hoof's like 8 or 9 mana. Is just like plain Jane ass overrun in the format, and I don't know about it. Because that's the only thing I can think of. Because that would kill me. But otherwise, we're like alive. What am I missing? Oh, okay. That's... Okay. I don't think there's literally any way I do the math here. 14, 15, 16. 16 minus 3 is oftentimes more than 9. Yeah, well played. Their deck, okay, I see now why. Almost certainly he must have had that Shadow Mage at the top, so he didn't see a need to bounce it back because he knew what he was going to draw next turn and knew how many creatures he was. I recant my bitching. My opponent made the right play. But yeah, and honestly, the deck still did a good showing of what the deck wants to do. It's one of those, if he didn't have that Shadow Mage or some other big, go wide payoff thing, we would have started to slowly, gain life, not only gain life back from Extort, but slowly start chipping our opponent away, and especially in that list, more than likely there isn't life gain. Of course, those colors have access to it, but in that instance, he would have had, the ability to gain life, but more often than not, they weren't going to have some sort of life gain on average, because this does not see play in elf decks. Very rarely do you see elf decks. They're usually mono green, and even when they're black, they usually don't run Shadow Sage. They go for more of, again, an Enrage Forerunners or Crater Hoof finish for going wide. Although this does work, so good on him. But yeah, we would have eventually started drawing, and I could have started, say, sacrificing on upkeep to get scry triggers and sort of curate my draws and do it like that if I wanted to. If not, just start gaining life and removing stuff from Sorin in a admittedly slow way. But our opponent did well. It's one of those, they played an aggressive deck, they beat us fair and square, and the deck still showed what it wanted to do. I think this deck is still a whole lot of fun, and I really think you should try it, especially if you liked older versions of Doom Foretold. And since it has largely fallen out of favor in the format, I think this deck does really good against most lists. And the meta is, honestly, especially in Historic after the deserved nerfs on the Boros energy list, that makes the format a little more varied now like it was before Modern Horizons. It's in a good space. It has a good enough matchup against most decks. Every once in a while you'll get out aggroed, and even then, that's not a guaranteed. So you can still have a lot of fun with this. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Again, I apologize for missing upload dates, but like I talked about, when you gotta sort of play part-time caretaker, with relatives, your time isn't always yours. So as you will see in this video, and I may or may not mention it in the little write-up below, I am gonna use this video. I'm gonna miss the week. I'm not gonna try and upload during the week. I'm gonna use this video recording now during the middle of the week to create a buffer so I can try and always have at least another week's worth of video, fingers crossed, going in the future, so that I can afford, if I gotta, take the family member in question to a doctor's appointment, or their social anxiety is, getting bad and I need to take them to the store so they'll have food to eat, little shit like that. I'm going to use this video to build a buffer so that hopefully we won't have to miss videos, all things being equal. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like my weird grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions like, I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally nice and or constructive comments, I'll do what I can to respond to what I see. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.